Hi, and welcome to the Captioned Life, a show for the most casual and dedicated fans of comics and a member of the Comic Watch family. I'm your host, Sean. Join me and discover what the world of comics and graphic novels have to offer. From one-on-one interviews with industry professionals, roundtable discussions with passionate fans, and reviews on the latest comics, TV shows, and movies. Now let's dive right on in. Hi everyone, thank you for joining us. If this is your first time checking us out, thank you very much. If you're a returning listener, thanks for coming back. New York Comic Con is just wrapped up today, and when you think about comics and conventions, there are many things that undoubtedly pop in your mind. Meeting with comic creators and celebrities, buying comics from local comic vendors, getting your hands on exclusive items like Funko Pops and toys, but probably one of the most popular subcultures out in the world of comics and conventions today that everyone immediately thinks about is cosplay. Now, there are a lot of cosplayers out there who are really impressive with what they make and the content they create, and I wanted to bring someone on the show today that has an amazing talent for cosplay. So please welcome Greg PropWay Enriquez. Greg is a mechanical engineer and prop maker known for his replica superhero props on his social media and YouTube channel, PropWay. Greg takes the most popular costumes from Marvel and DC movies and teaches others how to make them in a simple and fun way. In addition to this, Greg is very close with his family and loves playing sports. Greg, welcome on the show, man. How you doing?
Good. How are you doing? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, not a problem. I'm doing okay right now. And I guess
All right.
We've been trying to make this work for multiple months now. I just got to say, I really appreciate your patience with us.
Of course.
I have to share off the bat before we get into the interview. I saw one of your recent videos that you created the Daredevil helmet. And I got to say, I'm a huge Daredevil fan, so I absolutely love that.
All right. Yeah, I love the hat. I love that little Daredevil on your microphone. I can tell you're a fan.
Now, I will say that I'll be upfront and share that I am not a huge fan of like the yellow and red combination for the costume. Mm-hmm. But with that being said, the helmet that you created was really impressive. And the suit on the She-Hulk episode was actually really good. Even though I don't like that color, I really enjoyed how they did it on that. But I got to say that anytime you make anything cosplay related that's Daredevil, I'm automatically a fan for that.
Right.
So
perfect.
Yeah. Well, the first question I want to ask you is, what is your cosplay origin story? Was there a person or a convention or even an event that gave you your first experience or made you decide that you wanted to become a cosplayer?
Yeah, I mean, so I've been making props for as long as I can remember. Specifically, I remember being a kid, like 5 years old, watching Batman Forever and drawing Batman masks on paper and cutting it out and like taping it to my face. So that was literally, I feel like I've been doing this my entire life. So I guess I've always had a passion for kind of just costumes and superheroes since I was a kid. And it's just kind of evolved over time, especially after Iron Man came out in 2008 is when I really kind of fell in love even more with the prop making process and all of that. So as far as a singular event, I mean, I think it's just been kind of building up over time, and it's just meeting new people along the way, obviously with my Instagram account and all that, meeting other cosplayers. It's just kind of been, it's a really great community and there's a lot of inspiration going around. So it's really just been over several years that I got into it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. What was your first convention that you went to as that you cosplayed in?
You know, it's funny. The first and actually only convention I've ever been to is C2E2 in Chicago.
Oh, really?
It was last December 2021. I dressed up as Shang-Chi.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Is that was that the cosplay where you made those rings for it as well too?
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
Oh, that's awesome. You know what's funny is I just went to C2E2 this year, and I got to say I have only been to a handful of Comic Cons, but C2E2 was really impressive, especially with cosplayers. I remember thinking that they really set the bar high for the cosplay experience because they had changing areas for you. They had a whole station and people walking around for cosplay repairs, and it just seemed like they really wanted to create a really good experience for cosplayers.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, definitely. I mean, you see probably some of the best cosplays. That's like one of the bigger conventions for that, and it was an awesome experience for me just because it was my first convention. So yeah, definitely a great experience going there.
Oh, that's awesome. I love hearing that. That's well, if you go to C2E2 again, let me know and I'll definitely make sure I can try to and meet
Yeah.
you up there sometime. That'll be fun.
All right. Sounds good.
So how has your cosplay process developed from when you first started to where you are now? Because I know in your bio you mentioned that you're a mechanical engineer,
Yeah.
and some of your props that you made has some engineering aspects to it.
Yeah.
Where your Black Panther helmet, I think, has like
Mm-hmm.
mechanical parts in it as well too. So I
Yep.
got to imagine that your mechanical engineering background comes into play with this a lot too.
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, I mean, like you said, I kind of started off, all of my props kind of started off being more just foam based, just kind of no electronics, no moving parts or anything. And I
Mhm.
still do a lot of that, but I definitely, once I got into engineering, you kind of, you learn more about electronics and circuits, and you try to incorporate that more into your projects. 3D modeling and 3D printing is another big thing that I didn't
Mhm.
really get into until I started engineering. So I did a Hawkeye bow that I 3D modeled myself, and kind of has like a snapping motion that opens up. So that was a cool project. So I mean, as far as how my process has changed, I still try to focus on the props that I'm most passionate about, which is mostly Marvel stuff.
Mhm.
Just pick out the ones that I like, and if there is a cool kind of mechanism I can add to it, or some sort of electronic circuit, or motors, then I try to include that. But my channel again it's very kind of gears more towards kind of the simplicity, and anyone can make this kind of stuff. So I try to
Mhm.
keep the whole just foam builds as much as I can, just because I don't want people to be intimidated by all of the electronics and all that stuff.
Right.
But it's fun to definitely take part in both sides of that.
Right. Well, and let me ask you this, because I appreciate you saying that you don't want people to be intimidated by doing some of those things. I just got into cosplay a couple of years ago, actually, when the pandemic happened. I
Yeah.
got inspired by Jonathan Bell. Actually, was somebody that we've had on the show. I was really inspired by him to get into cosplay, and I remember thinking like I had no idea what I was doing when
Yeah.
I first started out, and I tried to look at other channels and things like that. So for
Hmm.
people who might have been interested in doing cosplay but may get intimidated by all the work that goes into it and all the
Yeah.
intricacies and things like that, do you have any advice or suggestions on where someone can start with in terms of how small they can go and what they can focus on to really help them
Right.
enjoy and get into it so that way they're not overwhelmed by that process?
Right. No, yeah. I mean, I listened to another podcast, Still Untitled, with Adam Savage, and one thing that he always says is you should always build something that you actually want to have. I know a lot of
Mhm.
people, they might try a project just for the sake of trying it and just to practice their skills, but if you don't really want that item, you might not be as motivated. So my first piece of advice would be pick something that you want to have, something that you want to display in your house, something you want to wear, and try that.
Mhm.
I find probably foam is one of the more simplest materials to work with. Foam,
Mhm.
cardboard. So I would definitely recommend starting off with those materials. Whether you want to do a helmet or a weapon like a sword or a shield, it's really up to whatever you guys want to make. And again, I can't stress enough. As long as you are excited about that prop, and want to actually have it in your hands, then I think people will find a way to make it themselves.
Right. Is there, do you find that there's a specific kind of prop that might be a really good starter prop for some people, like a sword or a shield, or you mentioned helmet or something like that?
Yeah, starter prop. That's a good question. I would say, I would probably go with a shield of some sorts,
Yeah.
because really, there's not, like, my Captain America shield that I made was made out of one sheet of foam that you make one cut in, and after that, you're painting it. So it's something that doesn't require a lot of sharp edges or a lot of different faces to it. Again, a shield, it's one face, it's a circle, it's a triangle. So I
Hmm.
definitely recommend starting with that if that's something that the person's interested in.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. No, and that's really cool. And I like what you said earlier about doing something that you absolutely love, because I think one of the things that had always stopped me from doing cosplay is
Mhm.
because I am such a large guy and I actually have a shaved head, I always felt myself like being limited to what I could do as cosplay. But then you go to conventions and you look at social media accounts, and there's a lot of people that cosplay as their favorite character, and it doesn't
Oh yeah,
matter, if they look like that person or not, in terms
absolutely.
of physical features and all that, but they really embody that spirit in their costume and capture, and they really get creative with it. And so I remember,
Right,
just thinking about who are some of the characters that I really love that I want to just try to emulate and become in that aspect. And I think you're right that when you're motivated, that's when you can really go and do a lot of great things and go very
right,
far with that when it's something
right.
that you love and a character that you love. So
Yeah, no, absolutely,
yeah.
100%.
So you had mentioned your YouTube channel,
Yeah,
and you have that and social media accounts where you show off the props that you make for cosplaying. I think your YouTube channel is also kind of like a do-it-yourself where you show people how you make the
yep,
props as well.
yep,
Um,
exactly.
Tell us what that process was like and what you've enjoyed about it. Like, what made you decide to do it? And
Sure.
as you started the YouTube channel, what have you learned from not just, the cosplay and how to show that, but just what people were looking for and things like that as well?
Right. Yeah. So I started off the name PropWay with kind of a business model of I was going to make props for people and just sell that, do commissions and all of that.
Mhm.
And while I did that for maybe about a year, and while that was fun, it got to be, because you're making things for other people, you don't really get a chance to, you don't have a lot of time to make stuff for yourself. So I wanted to kind
Mhm.
of find a way to get away from that and kind of do things that I wanted to enjoy myself. And I figured out that, making tutorials for people allowed me to first, one, I get to build what I want. And
Mhm.
two, you get to teach others, which has honestly been one of the more rewarding parts of this whole thing. Just I've gotten so many people telling me, that they've never done cosplay before and they watched one of my videos and they did their first project, and it just makes me super happy. So that's honestly what my YouTube channel is all about now, is doing tutorials, showing people how I do stuff. So that's kind of, where I plan to take this channel and kind of what I plan to do most of.
Mhm.
um, you said a second part to that question. I'm not remembering what it was.
Oh yeah, no, just as you were doing your YouTube channel, like
Yeah,
just what that process was like and how you've learned from, your first video to where you're at
yeah,
now. Um
right.
the filming process, but also what you've been finding, what people have been wanting
Yeah, right,
since then as well too.
right. No, yeah, I mean, I try to stay true to even my first video where I'm showing literally every single step and try not to miss any of that.
Mhm.
Just because people have all different skill levels and you don't know what someone knows and what they do know. So you want to make sure you just show every step. And I try to stay true to that through all my videos. I mean, I definitely, with making all of these props, I try to kind of gear more towards what's trending. Obviously, so with the newest Marvel movie, newest DC movie, so
Mhm.
that's kind of how I choose, what props I'm going to make next. So yeah, I mean, it's the whole entire process of filming. It's still kind of pretty new to me, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to go about it and to make my content even better.
Mhm.
It's always tough when I'm in a zone and I just want to keep building something, but then I have to stop and set up a camera to get this one shot. And it's telling that story is probably the hardest part about making these tutorial videos. But it's been a blast, and I
Yeah.
couldn't ask for anything better.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and it's really hard to, just like what you explained, to capture the video aspect of it when you're also the main subject in the video as well too. So
Right.
having to wear multiple hats, you always have
Yeah.
to think about, okay, what I need to capture on the video and actually do that, and then how to set up the camera and frame it and everything. And so
Yeah.
I've always said that I would love to do more videos if I just had somebody that could help me with just like some of the filming aspects of it,
Right. Right.
because then it makes things a little bit easier where you can kind of focus your attention on the subject as opposed to the
Yeah.
technical pieces of it. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
um, when you were talking about the kinds of props that you made, I did want to bring up one of the more recent ones that you had made that I saw on your social media, and that was the spell book from Hocus Pocus 2.
Yeah.
And what I love about it is you showed off, you know, what it looked like, and it looked like, you know, straight from the movie.
Yeah.
But moving the eye was actually
Yeah.
a really genius way of doing that. Can you share what that process was and what it is?
Yeah, sure. So, you know, reason I made it the Hocus Pocus was because, you know, I attended the premiere in New York City. So I wanted to have something that I could actually, you know, kind of a prop that I could hold in my hands and actually bring to the premiere. And I figured the Spellbook was the perfect opportunity for that. So I mean, as far as the process, you know, first thing I thought of was, you know, foam. I'm very used to working with foam, so
Right.
I can do that. You know, I looked at some reference photos of it, and I kind of sketched out anytime I do something mechanical, I sketch it out on a whiteboard just to, you know, just to get some rough ideas. So I sketched out, came up with the idea of having that it was a ping pong ball kind of encased in between pieces of foam that, you know, you'd be able to actually move it from the back just by moving a stick attached to the ball. And luckily, you know, honestly, whenever I build stuff, I always plan it one way, and a lot of times it doesn't work out. But luckily, this worked out first try. So yeah, it came out really nice, and I was really proud of it. My sister got to use it because it's also it opens up to be a little carrying purse. So she kept her phone in there and all that stuff. So yeah, it was definitely a very fun project.
Awesome. And I think one of the actors signed it as well too. Is that right?
Yeah, we were able to get Bette Midler, the main witch Winnie, to sign it.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. So I'm assuming you got to speak with her and talk to her a little bit while she signed that, right?
Oh, it was a very quick interaction.
Very quick, yeah.
My sister stuck out the book, she signed it, and just kind of she moved on.
Just moving, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But still, that's really cool, though.
Yeah.
I love that. So let me ask you this: when you were thinking about that, I would have said, again, I'm a very, very beginning amateur cosplayer. So if I was going to make that, the first thing I would have thought of is, can I get some sort of big book to start off with that?
Right.
So I'm kind of curious, did you think about getting a book first and just decided not to do that, or?
Yeah, I mean, it honestly probably would have been easier by getting a bigger book, just because you already have half of it built already.
Right.
And I did think about it, but I think I was in such a time crunch. I didn't have time to order it online or go to a store. I was like, you know what? I think I can do it out of foam in, you know, half a day. And so I just knocked it out.
Gotcha. Okay. No, I was just kind of curious about that because when you said you made it out of the foam, I was kind of surprised because my first thought would have been like, you know, try to find a book to begin with. So
that's honestly the smarter way to do it. I guess I like to take the hard way. Yeah.
Oh, that's fine. No, that's but honestly, again, it looks so realistic. It looks so much like the book in the movie that, I mean, you know, you could have told me that it was the real thing and I would have believed it because it looked so much like it. It was really impressive.
Thank you. Thanks.
So looking back at all the props that you've made for cosplay, what's been your favorite one that you've created and why?
Oh, man, this is I love this question because whenever someone asks me it, I feel like it's a different answer every time.
Yeah.
I'm a big Iron Man and Batman fan, so I'm going to automatically lean towards, you can kind of see the Iron Man suit that I built right behind me. So that's one of my favorites. And that's honestly one of the more challenging ones. And then I also built a cowl, the Batman cowl from Batman Forever, which is my, like I said, one of the movies that got me started into, you know, costumes and prop making. So I'd say those two are probably my favorite props that I've made.
That's awesome. Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Iron Man suit that you created has some mechanical parts in it as well, too. Like the faceplate moves down.
So no, well, this one is actually completely made out of foam. The only, I guess, you know, extra stuff is just the LED light in the heart, in the arc reactor and the eyes. I actually have not made an Iron Man helmet with a moving faceplate, surprisingly, but
oh, no kidding. For some reason I thought maybe you had, but maybe I was thinking of a different. Because I know you did that for the Black Panther mask, and
yes, correct.
Was there another mask that you made one? Maybe that was just the one I was thinking of.
I think that Black Panther was the only one. I did a Spider-Man one with kind of moving eyes. That might be the one.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Because I remember there was another one that I saw you made. I was like, oh, that's really cool. So maybe that's what I was thinking of. So yeah. What was the most difficult prop that you've ever made?
Difficult. I mean, the Iron Man suit is is difficult just because there's so many parts to it,
Mhm.
not necessarily because, you know, any single thing is difficult, but just because, you know, you're spending months building pieces to an entire suit. I would say, what other projects were tough? Again, anything that has moving pieces to it.
Mhm.
I did build you may have seen it, the Batman grapple gun from the new Batman movie. It's the
Yes.
one that shoots out from his arm and you kind of catch it. That was
Yeah.
a tough one. That had a few mechanical components to it. And it was hard because all the mechanical components I did were like made out of cardboard and, you know, rubber bands. It wasn't really, you know, 3D printed screws or anything. So it made it a little more difficult because I'm kind of prototyping as I build it. So
Right.
that was, now that I think of it, that's probably the hardest one I've done.
I bet. Well, and it paid off though, because I
Yeah.
remember I saw that video and I
Yeah.
remember thinking how cool it was, because it was very similar to how you saw it in the movie as well. So the way it propels and now you can grab the gun with your hand and everything like that was really
Right.
cool. So
Yeah.
was that also, you said that was a prototype, in terms of thinking about the most difficult, was that the one that you've had to kind of work on like different versions of, because when you thought about doing it, you realized that as you're working on it, it wasn't going to work that way. So you had to start over or anything?
Yeah. I built one out of cardboard. Well, the final one was made out of cardboard, but the first one I built was made out of cardboard. And I probably got 80% of the way through the build and nothing was working.
Oh man.
So I'm like, and I had to troubleshoot and figure out what parts were not working or what part wasn't fitting. And I was like, I gotta start over now. So I literally scrapped that entire thing and started fresh. And so that was a tough one.
So how long does it take you normally to work on a prop like that? Like when we're watching your social media videos and YouTube and all that, how long does it usually take for you to work on a prop from start to end, typically an average?
On average, I would say probably, you know, whenever you see the one video, that probably spans a time of about 2 weeks.
Mhm.
It's gotten a little easier now, especially, or some props are a little easier. Like the Daredevil helmet, I knocked out in 3 days, just because it's a small helmet, it's all foam, so you know, nothing complicated to it. But with something like the grapple gun or, you know, the Black Panther helmet, that probably spanned 2, maybe even 3 weeks.
Wow. Okay.
And it's hard to condense it down to 10 minutes, and that's always the hardest part about editing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And when we're talking about, you know, this prop took, you know, only a couple of days, this one took 2 weeks and all that. I guess daily, because I would assume that you probably might have a full-time job outside of this, or full-time. I don't know what you're doing in your personal life, but my guess is you're probably not spending like all day doing this because you have, you know, something else going on outside of this, right?
Right. So I actually am now currently doing this YouTube and social media stuff full time.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But
all right.
this is only as of about maybe a month ago. Before that, I was working a full-time engineering job, and struggling to squeeze in a couple hours at the end of the day to dedicate to the props is always challenging, but it's gotten a little easier now.
Oh, okay. Well, that just changes the whole game for you now,
right?
right?
No, like you said, now that I have, you know, I literally, my job is to work on these props all day. So now living the dream, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing with social media and everything that's out there. It makes those things more possible than, you know, when I was growing up and everything. So and I know, you know, when you're working a full-time job and you're doing all this stuff, you only have so many hours in a day to be able to accomplish all this stuff. So now, you know, doing this as your full-time job, it's got to, you know, be a relief for you for a number of reasons. But you know, congratulations on that. That's really great that you're able to do this full time. That's great.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah.
All right. Well, my next question I want to ask you is there something about creating cosplay props that would surprise most people, you know, even people who are generally aware about cosplay, or maybe people who've been doing cosplay for a while? Is there something that would surprise somebody if you told them this little tidbit about cosplay?
I would honestly, I think what people, like I kind of hinted at it earlier, but I think people don't realize that it's not very difficult to at least get started in cosplay. I know, you know, when you think cosplay, you think these fully beautiful, complete suits that, look like the real thing, and people, are a little intimidated by it. But you don't have to start doing it. You can start, with one helmet. You can start with one shield, one sword, and that's kind of, I think, what I'm trying to get at with my YouTube channel, where I just build one prop at a time, one shield, one helmet, and kind of show people that it's really not that difficult if I use the simple materials. It's fairly simple processes with gluing and cutting. And I think that would probably surprise people the most, is that you can get started with the most basic materials and come out with a really nice final product.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, and I'll share this. When I first cosplayed, I did something really simple, and I did Bane because he was one of my favorite characters, but it was really easy to do because you just got a couple of pieces of clothing and bought the Bane mask, and I was ready to cosplay, right? The second one I did, we went to a convention as a group, and we wanted to do a Thor themed group cosplay.
Yeah.
So I went as Odin, and it was actually surprisingly easy. For a number of reasons. I say surprisingly easily, but that's because there's a couple of things in play that made it easy for me that might not be easy for everybody. But for Odin, how they have those really elaborate like shoulder pieces and chest pieces and things like that. I am not somebody that is at the level of cosplay where I can create that sort of thing strictly from foam. But I did have a hockey chest pad that I was like, let me just go ahead and use that, see if I can do that. And I painted the shoulder parts gold, the rest of the parts were black, and other pieces I kind of, made gold as well too, and just wore a black shirt underneath it. And it actually looked pretty well. And then I put like Velcro pieces to get a cape on as well. But then I made a spear, and the spear was actually surprisingly really easy because I only needed to get about a 7-foot PVC pipe and then get 2 pieces of foam and just cut the same pattern out, and then glue it and spray paint it together. And I was really amazed by how easy that actually was. And what was the other thing? And I like how good it ended up looking as well too. Like, it was very surprising how, that was something that seemed like it was going to be really complicated, but ended up being just, really simple, and it looked really good at the end of it. Like, we got a lot of compliments from a lot of people for that prop and all of our cosplays and stuff like that. But I remember that was something that I was really proud of because I did that on my own. That was my first prop, and it wasn't, spectacular by any means, but it didn't look, bad either. So
well, it's funny when you said spear, that process you described is exactly what I imagined in my head. A PVC pipe, 2 pieces of foam, probably a triangle shape. You glue it together. And but I mean, like you said, it's really, you can make really cool things with very simple materials, and not everyone needs it to look 100% screen accurate. As long as you're happy with it, then that's what it's all about.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, and it's a lot of fun to get creative with it as well too. So my son wanted to dress up as Shanxi this year when we went to another convention, and we thought it'd be really cool to get him the dragon bow staff that they used in the movie. The problem was we were flying to the convention and we couldn't take that with us. But what we did was we decided to say, like, instead of the bow staff, we're just going to tell people like these are the Kali sticks that some martial artists have. But to make that, I mean, it was just a dowel rod. And I went to Joann Fabrics, and they had some material that looked like dragon scale. I just grabbed that, glued it on the staff, and spray paint that part red, and it looked really close to that.
I bet.
Now, it doesn't look as good as yours because I know you made one.
I did,
And I was like, at some point, I'm going to watch that video and try to make it light up like what you did, because that was genius. I love how you did that, because that was the other thing I love about your channel, is that a lot of this stuff is actually very practical as well too. That some people might think is really complicated to do, like the Shanxi rings that you created. I'm going to hand it over to you and kind of have you talk about that a little bit. But it was just ingenious how you came up with that. And I thought, wow, this is like actually not a bad way to make this at all, or not complicated to make this, but it's very, but it looked really good at the end and didn't really take like all these, expensive materials to do that either.
I mean, so after watching some of the trailers, I was like, okay, I have to make the rings. And the coolest part about the ring, in my opinion, was that it lights up. And so I tried, there have been some people who have come up with some really awesome ways to stick LEDs, but when I was doing it, I guess I don't know. I couldn't figure out how to get an LED strip with a small enough battery in each ring. So
Right.
I was thinking of the best way to do it, and I thought of a glow stick. And it turned out it worked really well. So basically, you have the two foam pieces and with a plastic strip in the middle, and then you just stick a glow stick in there, and it glows, and I think it looked really cool.
Oh yeah, it looked fantastic. I remember just thinking like that was again something that was really simple to do, and it looks great when you're somewhere in like a more of a dark area where it really shines through and everything. I thought that was just genius. I love that part. When I saw you make that video and showing that off, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so great that like it doesn't take very complicated ways to make something as cool as that to be able to replicate that sort of thing. So I love that about that video that you made, because it was just made it a lot more accessible and attainable for people.
Right. I mean, like you said, it's the fun part about it is getting creative, and there's always a million ways to do one thing. So you can get as complicated as you want. You can be as simple as you want. And it's really just like, you just got to be creative.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So what is a cosplay idea that you have that's something that you really are striving for, that you think is going to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Like something that's going to be like a pinnacle. Like if I can make this, like this will be like the greatest thing ever, basically.
Yeah. So I do have a project that I plan to start, hopefully, in the next few weeks or so, that I don't want to spoil too much because I want to kind of surprise people with it.
Yeah, that's totally fine. I get that. Yeah.
The hint, I'll give a hint that it is Batman related.
Oh, okay.
So it's a bigger Batman project, and I'm super excited to get started with it. And I think if I can, it's like one of my grails of prop making, where if I can have this and just display it in my house, then I'd be set.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'll make sure to be looking out for that.
Yeah.
Is there a cosplay or character suit that you're like, whenever you see it, I'm never going to touch that, because that's something that is just going to be way too complicated or difficult that I don't even want to try that at all?
After building, I'm actually working on my second Iron Man suit now, but after building 2 foam Iron Man suits, I mean, I don't know if I can do a third one. I know a lot of people 3D print, and so that might be something I can look into, is 3D printing a suit. But just sitting down and freehanding any full kind of robotic looking suit is always tough. So I mean, like I said, whenever I see Iron Man, I'm like, I want to build it, but I just don't know if I have the patience to spend months doing it.
Right. Yeah. So Mark II, and then you're done after that.
Yeah, probably.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, so going back to what you were saying about Batman Forever being, your inspiration for all this, is at some point, do you think that you might do more suits or anything from that movie as an homage or anything like that, like the villain suits or Robin or any of the? I mean, Batman's known for the multiple suits that he has and everything. So like something along those lines.
You know what? No, I really haven't had any plans to build anything in addition to that first cowl I made. What I do plan to make, because the cowl that I do have, it was before I made the YouTube channel. So I've gotten a lot of requests for people asking me to do a tutorial on it because they've seen it in the backgrounds of my videos. So that I do plan to do a full tutorial on how to make that cowl. So I'm going to do a repeat of that. But as far as any additional props in there, no, I really didn't have any plans to do anything. I mean, there are some really cool stuff, like all of his gadgets, that I would love to have. And honestly, now that you mention it, I can think of a couple that I want to build right now. So I'm honestly, after this call, I'm probably going to watch some YouTube videos in the movie and see what I can do.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, no, that's great. Well, last question I want to ask you, and this is not necessarily cosplay related, but earlier this year, you and your family were on Family Feud, and there was a clip from that went viral. Now, I know the clip, but I don't know if people listening in knows what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to hand it over to you and just ask you, what was that clip about?
So the question on Family Feud was, name something you'd like your girlfriend to do to your face. And there's, I was the last one in line in my family to answer it. So they had a few answers, like, I think kiss it or, blow on it or some other answers. And when it got to me, honestly, the first thing I thought of when Steve asked that question was sit on it. So I said it on national TV, and it just blew up on everywhere, TikTok, Instagram, and yeah.
Right. Well, and I think it makes sense when you say that you're the last person in your family to answer that, because all the obvious answers get taken.
Yeah, right. All of the the G-rated answers were taken, so you're kind of left with the one answer.
You got to think the producers probably asked that question on purpose because they knew that's what was going to happen, right? Because like, there's not a whole lot of answers you could come up with that makes sense.
There are definitely, yeah. There are definitely questions there where they're fishing for some answers. And that was one of them.
So was it, besides that? I mean, I'm sure that was kind of a silly but embarrassing moment. But besides that, was Family Feud a lot of fun for you guys?
Oh yeah, it was a blast. I mean, my family were huge Family Feud fans, so being on the set was just a surreal moment for us. Meeting Steve, and he's the greatest guy. He's so funny, so super down to earth.
Mm-hmm.
It was an awesome experience, and we were on a total of 3 episodes, and we actually won a decent amount of money. So it was a great experience. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, Greg, thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you taking the time to come talk to us about cosplay. Before I let you go, can you let people know where they can find you and your work online?
Yeah, absolutely. I have the YouTube channel. If you just search PropWay, you'll find me there. Instagram, I'm very active on, and TikTok. So those are the 3 main ones: YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. I do have a Facebook page, but that's kind of just more of a side profile. So those 3 main ones are where you guys can find me at.
And the username is the same for all of them, PropWay, right?
Yes, correct.
Awesome. And I'll make sure I'll put the links in the show notes as well too. So
yeah.
All right. Well, Greg, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you. I appreciate the time. I had a blast.
Definitely. And that wraps up another episode of The Captioned Life. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. You can follow us on social media at Captioned Life. For more information about us and all of our previous episodes, visit thecaptionedlife.com.